This video was originally intended to be about my trip to Niue, and how Niue is a dark sky nation, which basically means that they have little to no light pollution, so you can see the sky above really well at night time. And this whole thing about the International Dark Sky Association, who gave them that official title and how it was interesting and all that sort of stuff. But what I realised going throughout the trip, it became less about that, and it became more about my fear of seeing new places and trying new things. Niue is the kind of place where if you want to go and see something really interesting, you have to try really hard to get there. You gotta drive pretty far, walk down a sea track, walk through some caves to then get down to the shoreline to see something pretty amazing. But it formed this realization within myself about how I've always been so scared of that sort of stuff. And not because of what I'll see along the way, but more about how I feel about myself doing it. When I was 15 years old, I broke my leg skateboarding. And once that happened, I just never skated again. And a couple years ago, I snapped my Achilles playing basketball, and I just never really went back to it. And part of it was a fear of hurting myself again. But part of it was also, I thought maybe my body just wasn't capable of doing those things. So why am I talking about this? What's the point? I used to be so worried that I didn't look a certain way when I did things. I've always been a bit taller and a bit wider around the waist, and I've often compared my movements to that of a baby deer. And that always kind of hindered me in going back and doing these things that I wanted to do. That maybe I would look silly or stupid, or that going back and doing the things that I did injuring myself, people would look at me and go, I don't know if that's a good idea. But I've started to realise that I need to kind of just move past that. And it should be more about how I've actually just been missing out on things that I really enjoy. Not being afraid to do things and maybe hurt myself, or maybe not. Maybe look a little bit silly, a little bit stupid. And not be worried about being stared at when I'm riding a bike and the brakes sound like... I'm not perfect at this. I used to be really scared all the time that I was doing something wrong, and for some reason that people were angry at me, give me a certain stare or a certain look, or their tone of their voice and things like that. Then you realise that most people are just going about their day doing their thing. Maybe they're having a bad day for something that you don't even realise what's going on. If you look a little bit silly doing something, who's really going to care? Because I'm constantly so scared about what's going to happen that nothing will happen. I've always been slightly scared of failing. Of doing things wrong in some way that I've never done them before. Or that I somehow do things differently in a way that no one else does. That my body's just not capable of doing those things. And that's just the way I was born, right? And I started to realise that it was because I'd never tried those things. I was just scared. And that I made it look like I fit into that category in my head. But if I'm doing that thing, then I am that thing. I am what I do. I am how I behave. If I hike, then I'm a hiker. If I bike, then I'm a biker. It's like Dr. Seuss. But I might as well try. Because if I don't, the only person who loses out is me. And if I don't try, then I don't get to see cool things like this. So, if you've got any thoughts, share a comment, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And I'll see you later.